At 92, Willie Nelson reveals the 6 people he hates most in Nashville. Let's get one thing straight before we start. Willie Nelson doesn't wear grudges like a badge. He wears guitar strings, braids, and a grin that says he's already forgiven you for the last mess. Hate is a headline word, a neon lure. The truth under that light is thornier and way more entertaining. Over 9 decades, he's shaken hands with legends and sparred with friends, and the stories feel like a barroom jukebox, a little loud, a little sentimental, and impossible to turn off once the first note hits. If you came for fireworks, you won't be disappointed. If you came for villains, you may leave with mirrors. He loves a long game. He also loves a good wink. Ask him about Waylon Jennings and he'll tell you they fought about everything, usually with a smile that gives away nothing and everything at once. These weren't brawls in alleyways. They were the kind of collisions 2 meteor-sized artists have when the stage is small and the stakes are enormous. Booking disputes, band choices, tempos, buses, the key of a chorus. If it could be argued, it got airtime. The legend says one squabble splashed gasoline on a song, and Waylon struck the match. Bob Wills is still the king came out sounding like a toast and a jab, the way a true friend points at your ribs and laughs while he's also giving you a hug. Did Willie hate Waylon? He hated being boxed in, hated when someone else's clock tried to set his heartbeat. But he loved Waylon enough to spar with him in public, and that's rarer than harmony in a storm. The tension energized both men. One night a promoter tried to wrangle them with a double booking trick, and Willie just stared across the room like a poker player who knows the river is his. Later, the 2 of them sat on the bus, laughed at the mess, and wrote more songs. That's the Willie way. Let the song win the argument. Stubbornness runs hot in the outlaw bloodstream. Willie has a soft voice, but it hides spine. Waylon's appetite for control met Willie's belief that songs are living things, and the road grew bumpy. One night, a promoter tried to play the 2 against each other, promising prime slots as if friendship could be auctioned like cattle. Willie didn't blink, and Waylon didn't budge. They both wanted the same sunrise, just from different sides of the hill. The arguments burned fast, then cooled in the glow of spotlights and applause. People talk about fights. Willie remembers the music. If you bring up Coke at the poker table, he'll raise you a grin and a story about how the real high is finishing a chorus that refused to come together until the last good nerve steadied your hand. That's his gospel. Make the chorus true, and the rest will heal itself. Merle Haggard came into Willie's orbit like a weather front. Clear skies, then thunder, then a rainbow you couldn't hardly process. Their pairing looked perfect on paper. 2 poets with scarred boots and movie star eyes. The early 80s put them in the same room long enough to make magic, and Pancho and Lefty rode out like a ghost horse that knew the way home better than anyone alive. Behind the curtain, though, egos sometimes rubbed like flint. Merle loved precision. Willie loved feel. Merle wanted the verse to snap like a line. Willie preferred it to float. Our egos did clash occasionally, is how the polite version gets told, and that's accurate enough. Translation: every once in a while the air got tight and somebody walked outside to breathe. Then the tape rolled and professionalism swallowed pride. Willie didn't hate Merle. He hated when the room forgot why it existed. The room exists for songs. When the take was right, both men grinned like kids who'd stolen a summer afternoon. And when it wasn't, they argued like brothers until it was. Those records don't just sound warm. They're heated by friction that never burned the house down. Now for the feathered fiasco that still gets whispered like a myth whenever the coffee turns to something stronger. Ray Price had a prized rooster, a strutting monarch with a chest puffed like a bullfrog. He parked that bird at Willie's place, where the hills hum and the evenings drift. Nobody told Shirley, Willie's wife at the time, that the visiting royalty had a mean streak. One day the rooster made a brutal decision and took down one of Shirley's hens, and that, as they say, was that. Willie looked at the situation, looked at the nickname he'd been carrying, and decided the farm needed a sheriff. Shotgun Willie lived up to the legend. Ray heard what happened and saw red. Words were exchanged. Threats to never sing another Willie tune again flapped across the wires. For a minute there, friendship looked fragile. But here's the part everyone forgets. They mended it. Later, Ray's microphone welcomed Willie's songs like they always had. If Willie hated anything, it was needless cruelty and a mess left for someone else to clean up. The rooster made its choice. Willie made his. In time, the men chose the music. Patsy Klein's story is a different kind of fire. Imagine hearing Crazy for the first time, not as a polished standard with velvet strings, but as a raw little heart beating in Willie's palm. He sang it like he does everything. Behind the beat, leaning into the ache, trusting silence as much as sound. Patsy listened and cocked her head. She was nobody's fool. Her voice could slice a diamond and warm a winter in the same breath. And she knew that phrases have to sit just right in the mouth or the magic never shows up. The early listen didn't thrill her, not because she doubted the bones of the song, but because Willie's phrasing broke rules most singers can't even see, let alone bend. For a second, you could almost say she looked past it. Then a producer adjusted the close on the song, shifted the arrangement, and she walked in and nailed the high wire like it was a sidewalk. The misunderstanding dissolved. Willie didn't hate Patsy. He hated that feeling when someone can't hear what you hear yet, but he loved even more the moment they do. Decades later, that track still sounds like forgiveness arriving with a string section. Money stories haunt the early chapters of every star who slept on couches and bet on melodies. Hello Walls carries one of Willie's most humbling walks to the door. He was broke enough to see through the pockets of his jeans. He had a song like a lottery ticket he couldn't cash yet, and he headed toward Faron Young with a proposition only a desperate songwriter makes when the rent taps him on the shoulder. The mythology says Willie tried to sell it outright for $500. Faron, cowboy hat, sly grin, instincts of a fox, slid the cash across anyway and told Willie to keep the publishing. That's not just kindness, that's strategy with a halo. The record hit sat at number. One like it had paid property taxes and the checks started coming. If Willie hates anything, it's predatory paper. Faron turned a tense ask into a lifeline, and Willie never forgot the difference between someone who takes your song and someone who feeds it. That choice shaped a career. The next time a suit tried to bury a clause in daylight, Willie remembered the man who refused to exploit fear. There's a running bit that lasted so long it practically became a folk tale. Fans swore Willie Nelson and George Strait had sung together 100 times. Radio hosts talked as if it were a given, the way we all assume certain stars share a sky. Decades passed, and somehow the duet never showed up. It turned into a joke at award shows, a friendly nudge at charity gigs. Why haven't we done this yet? Because you're busy making history. Because you're busy growing it. Then, finally, the calendar flipped to 2019, and the two kings of the same kingdom traded lines on a tune tailor-made to tip the hat and raise a glass at the same time. Sing One with Willie arrived like a grin you can hear, full of playful barbs and a promise fulfilled. Did he hate George? Hardly. He hated the gap between expectation and reality. The way a city could conjure a duet in rumor long before a microphone captured it. Once the myth became melody, Nashville exhaled. By now you're thinking, hold up, this was supposed to be a roll call of enemies. Where's the venom? Where's the slam the door moment? Here's the trick. Willie's version of hate almost never involves hating the person. It's the situation he wants off the bus. The rooster, not Ray. The schedule, not George. The tempo argument, not Waylon. The first principles disagreement, not Merle. The demo phrasing, not Patsy. The bank balance, not Faron. He's an outlaw monk, equal parts campfire philosopher and card sharp, squinting at the cards life deals and figuring out which to fold so the next hand has room to breathe. And when he does slam a door, he tends to open a window for the breeze to come back in once tempers cool. That's how you live long enough to watch your first hits become standards and your missteps become punchlines you can tell on yourself. The last few years have felt like bonus tracks, the kind you play twice. Every birthday past 80 sounds like a punchline the universe keeps trying and failing to deliver. He outworks folks half his age, then shrugs when you praise him for it. When a run of shows gets postponed, he treats it like the weather. When a tour rolls on, he treats it like Tuesday. Rumors spin because people can't process a man who keeps saying yes to life so casually. He's written chapters in the quiet, too, the ones where you ask what matters now, and the answer is simpler than it used to be. Friends, children, band family, a well-tuned guitar, air in the lungs, a crowd that still trusts him with their night. If that's old-fashioned, then maybe old-fashioned has been waiting on us to catch up. Ask insiders what actually rattles Willie, and you'll hear the same three words. Disrespect for songs. If someone rushes the lyric, he notices. If a label squeezes art like an orange to get one more drop, he notices. If a hustler tries to separate a writer from his publishing, he remembers the day Faron slid 500 across the table and said, "Keep your house." He wrote Shotgun Willie because sometimes you need a little bang to get attention, but the album was always a thesis disguised as a party. Protect the tune, honor the band, live with enough mischief to stay honest and enough grace to survive it. He's joked that he's been saved by melodies more than once. That's not a pose. The man keeps a lifeline coiled by the door, and it's woven from choruses. Waylon, Merle, Ray, Patsy, Faron, George, 6 names that look like a list of enemies only if you've never been in a long marriage with music. Nashville runs on friction as much as fuel. Willie's journey shows how friction can be repurposed into light. Waylon's jabs toughened his resolve. Merle's debates sharpened his instincts. Ray's rooster proved that even friendships need fences. Patsy's initial side-eye validated his weird, wonderful phrasing. Faron's loan sealed a philosophy about ownership that saved him more than once. George's long-running almost duet taught patience. Love can be stubborn, respect can be rowdy, and sometimes the best friendship wears a scowl for a minute before it breaks into a laughing fit and orders another round. Of course, the myth machine prefers heat. So let's speak its language for a heartbeat. Who did Willie hate most? The answer shifts depending on what the stakes were that day. The promoter who lied, the accountant who miscounted, the gatekeeper who mistook kindness for weakness. On some days it was the mirror, when he thought the voice might not be there, and then it showed up anyway, faithful as a dog. On others it was the clock, the Nashville clock that ticks to somebody else's tempo and expects you to dance on command. He learned how to change his own time zone, write faster than the rumor mill, sing slower than the panic. He doesn't race, he glides, and if you get in his way, he'll smile and keep gliding until you realize you've been moved. Here's the part most lists miss. Forgiveness is his ultimate flex. After the rooster uproar cooled, Ray Price and Willie found their alignment again because music refuses to hold grudges. After the early hesitation on Crazy, Patsy took the song further than any writer could dare to dream, and Willie never stopped thanking fate for the way a strong woman can teach a whole town how to feel. After the iron filings of ego sparked between Willie and Merle, they kept finding reasons to meet where the melody is bigger than both names on the poster. And after all those winks with George, the joke finally walked on stage and shook hands with reality. You don't build a 9-decade career by collecting enemies. You build it by turning disagreements into duets, flares into beacons, awkward moments into legends people tell each other in kitchens at midnight. He learned those lessons the hard way when lawyers crowded his porch and headlines turned his name into a scoreboard. Times like that teach you which rings to kiss and which doors to shut. He came out the other side with a lighter step and clearer math. Ownership matters. Friendship matters more. Pride will cost you. Grace saves you money and sleep. If he bristles these days, it's usually when someone tries to weaponize nostalgia, to freeze him in time like a museum piece. He refuses to be the statue you take a picture with and forget. He'd rather be the bridge you walk across without realizing who built it. So he keeps playing, keeps writing, Keeps picking with kids who weren't born when he first started bending the beat like a willow in wind. The only person he truly hates is the one who tells a young artist to color inside lines that have already faded. All this talk about enemies, and the punchline is simple. Willie Nelson's greatest act of rebellion has always been kindness with a backbone. The 6 people he hates most are the 6 he loved enough to argue with, to push, to tease, to challenge, to outlast. That list could have included the taxman, a couple of suits who thought they owned the air, a gossip or two who tried to make a headline out of a handshake. But hate is lazy. Willie's not. He prefers verbs that do work: play, write, laugh, forgive, show up, move on. When the cameras leave and the bus door hisses shut, he's back to being the quiet guy with the loud guitar, running scales that sound like prayer and weather at the same time. So if you came for fireworks, you got them: the Waylon Sparks, the Merle Static, the Ray Price Thunderclap with feathers, the Patsy Ignition, the Faron Rescue, the George Confetti Cannon. If you came for villains, you got mirrors instead. That's the twist Nashville never sees coming. The outlaw with the soft eyes keeps turning would-be enemies into co-writers of his story. He lets the music win the argument. He lets time do the trash talk. He watches the crowd sing the chorus and thinks quietly that this is what victory sounds like when nobody has to lose. Then he plays one more, for the road, for the kid in the cheap seats, for the friend who's gone and the friend who came back, for the rooster who didn't know when to stop. And because he's Willie, the outro isn't a door slam, it's a porch light. He wants you to walk away with a question nibbling at your ear. Who would make your list, and would you still shake their hand if the song demanded it? He wants you to remember that a rooster once caused more drama than any scandal cooked up in a boardroom. He wants you to laugh at the memory of 2 titans pretending to be mad while secretly thrilled they had someone worth sparring with. He wants you to play crazy again, to notice how the pauses carry as much feeling as the notes. He wants you to hear "Hello Walls" and think about a broke songwriter who kept his publishing because a friend knew the difference between a deal and a rescue. He wants you to grin when you hear "Sing One with Willie," because jokes that last decades deserve an ovation. 92 years is a long ride, but look at him. He's still got stories like aces up his sleeve. He's still telling the truth the only way it ever sticks, with a grin, a little grit, and a melody you can't shake. If that sounds like hate, you've been listening to the wrong station. If it sounds like a masterclass in grace under spotlight, welcome to the real headline. Willie Nelson doesn't vend grudges. He repurposes them. He builds bridges out of them. He turns enemies into evergreen. And then, right when you think the lesson's over, he pulls one more from the case, counts it off, and proves it again in 3 minutes flat, like only he can. And while we're talking, let's admit the leaf in the room. Willie's relationship with cannabis isn't a gimmick. It's a worldview. He treats the plant like a peace treaty, a way to slow the spin and clear a crowded mind. He's joked about it, sung about it, and built a business around respect without playing rebel. Over time, he adjusted how he partook, choosing gentler routes when lungs asked for mercy, proof that legends listen. To outsiders, it's a punchline. To him, it's prevention, recovery, community. He'll offer a story before advice, then grin and let a punchline land. In a town that confuses excess with edge, his approach feels wholesome. Be kind, share the stage, trade steadiness. If that makes him controversial, so be it. He's been Stranger Things, and those worked out fine.